This week, we saw a really good, crystal clear example of how a strong man is able to come to power and hold on to that power. Because he's just one guy, right? So how is it that he's able to take over an entire country and systematically dismantle democracy? Well, he doesn't do it by himself. He doesn't do it by himself. And I think when Donald Trump first got elected, a lot of people didn't understand the way that the power structure actually works. The way that we perceive a strongman, a dictator, an autocrat like Donald Trump, is that we think that the power is all consolidated at the top with him. But it's not. It's really inverted. The power lies with the people and always has. And when the people choose not to exercise their power, you see other folks who come in and they lend their support and their power and their influence and their wealth to the autocrat because either they're afraid of him or they get some kind of benefit from his corruption or his, vile, terrible plans. The strong man can't do anything on his own. He relies on those who are complicit, right? He relies on sycophants. He relies on those who will do his bidding, either because they have sold their souls and they think that they will become wealthy and powerful on their own, or because they are ideologues. They are folks who are true believers, either in the cult of the leader or in some message, some narrative that he has, or they think that they can exploit the leader to fulfill their own agenda, right? Like Mike Johnson, who wants a Christo-fascist state, like the Heritage Foundation, who wants a Christo-fascist state in this country. Or they're afraid of him. They capitulate because they are fucking cowards, right? This would be like Senator Bill Cassidy. But the dictator on his own cannot accomplish shit, right? And so we've known for a while now. I think people became aware in 2025, Indivisible and Congresswoman Pramila Jayapal, organizers who focus on effective civil resistance. I certainly did in many, many videos. We all tried to talk about the pillars of support. And I think now is a good time to remember that, because we have to continue to chip away at those pillars of support. We have to continue to topple them. So a strong man is held up in power, right? He's teeter-tottery, right? He could fall at any time, especially when the people withdraw their support. Donald Trump is underwater across the board. His approval rating is abysmal. Core demographics who supported him, white working class men, white men who are not college educated, voters who are under 25. You see Gen X men, right? Like all of these really strong demographics that supported Donald Trump. He's underwater in all of those. He no longer has the consent of the governed. So it's very difficult for an autocrat to stay in power when they do not have the support of the governed. They rely then on threats, intimidation, and violence, fear, forcing people to comply, forcing people to surrender. If the people don't believe in the mission of the dictator, they don't worship him, they don't support his agenda, then they have to threaten and scare people into submission, right? But if we understand that we have the power, we understand the power has always resided in us, and we choose to resist, we choose to step out and take risks, right? We choose to act even if we are afraid. We don't let that fear, we don't let those threats cause us to surrender, but instead we take action. We are able to work together to topple the dictator's regime. And one of the key ways that we have to take action, even when we're afraid, even when we know that there may be significant risks to ourselves, is not to go straight for the leader. It's not going to do anything. What we have to do is chisel away at all of these pillars of support under Donald Trump. So that looks like, in the best example I can think of this week, we saw the board of the Kennedy Center vote to add Donald Trump's name to the Kennedy Center. This is what it looks like to install corrupt loyalists everywhere. Donald Trump worked to remove people from the board who would continue to uphold the bylaws. The Kennedy Center is supposed to be named after John F. Kennedy. But Donald Trump wants all of these vanity projects, right? And he has this perceived narcissistic injury because the court has said you can't have your name on the Kennedy Center. And so he said, well, I'm going to get people on the board to say that I can. And we'll see if this goes through in the courts or not. But they said, sure, Daddy Donald, we'll give you whatever you want. Now, what has he offered them? How has he either threatened and intimidated them, or what kinds of bribes, what kinds of quid pro quo has he offered them? Those folks are a pillar of support. They do what they know is wrong. They do what they know is illegal and corrupt. They do what they know is gratifying the leader and furthering his agenda, even when they know that it's wrong. Those are the pillars of support. So when we look at who is willing to do whatever Donald Trump wants to keep him in power and to advance his plans, those are the folks that we go for. It's good to be reminding ourselves that resistance doesn't just look like voting, you guys. Resistance doesn't just look like a Saturday protest. One of the most effective components of resistance is that we all decide we are going to take whatever pillar of support is local to us, whatever way that we have access and influence over a pillar, and we are going to work to erode and topple it. Is your alma mater one of the colleges that is bending the knee to Donald Trump? Not just Donald Trump, but also to the surveillance state. MIT just announced they're going to spend $3 million on AI flock-style cameras all around campus, right? So when we look at big tech bros, big AI, flock, etc., all of that is creating the surveillance state. So if it benefits Palantir and Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and Sam Altman, etc., it is benefiting Donald Trump. So anything that is benefiting AI, that is benefiting the surveillance state, is absolutely a pillar of support. So how do you go for those, right? Who else is a pillar of support? What other institutions and corporations are pillars of support? Well, corporations are posting massive profits under this current period in time of deregulation. Who's getting contracts? What construction workers are getting contracts to bulldoze Big Bend National Park in Texas right now? What catering companies are getting government contracts to provide sub-adequate nutrition and insufficient calories of moldy, gross food to immigrants in concentration camps? They're making a lot of money doing that. They are a pillar of support. The media, corporations, institutions, members of government. Who is in government that you can influence, be it on a local level or also your reps, your senators? What about bureaucrats behind the scenes? Who's a pencil pusher in the government who is willing to sign off for something for Donald Trump when he shouldn't, when he knows it's breaking the law? Effective resistance is not only thwarting the efforts of the regime to advance their agenda by choosing to care for those that they are targeting, it is also chipping away at influencing, toppling those who are actively supporting the regime and doing harm. When you see Donald Trump still holding on to power with such abysmal approval ratings, right? Clearly pissing off the American people, trying to tell us that the economy is great because the stock market is doing great, right? When we see all of this discontent, all of this unrest, all of this suffering in the American people, how is it that Trump is still in power? Because he's not beloved. He doesn't have a high approval rating like Vladimir Putin or Bibi Netanyahu. Well, it's because all of those pillars of support have not yet withdrawn their support or been toppled. So what does it look like to push on those pillars, to chip away at those pillars where you are? That is good and worthy and necessary work in a resistance movement. And we cannot forget to continue to focus, because you know what? If we give these guys an inch, if they are profiting off of fascism, they will continue to do so. I saw somebody the other day, I think it was actually the SEIU, that posted saying we should stop calling fascism, because what it really is corporatism. It is corporations weaponizing the state in order to coerce and control all of us so that they can profit. It really is. It's corporate fascism that we have. So if the corporations, if the billionaires are the ones driving fascism and supporting Donald Trump because they profit off of that fascism, then how can you make fascism unprofitable? How can your community, how can your local indivisible group work to make fascism unprofitable and topple those corporate pillars? Let me know in the comments what you and your community are doing to work to topple those pillars who have sold their souls and sold all of us out to Donald Trump.